Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of League of Inches podcast. Vegas round review plus some Supercoach to get you started for the episode, and got Jake along for the long journey tonight. We'll be discussing all games that happened today. Obviously, at length, both NRL games, touching on the other two games as well. But Jesse's here with us. It's a Sunday night, of course. So that means we start with Supercoach. And Jesse is our absolute Supercoach gun, our whiz when it comes to all things Supercoach. Plenty of talking points already after two games. I made the late change, and I regret doing that now after Andrew Webster decided to really just shit the bed when it comes to anything to do with interchanging his middles, and has absolutely cost me with it. But anyway, and old Metcalf, we say hello to you, brother. From a Supercoach point of view, it's great for you to grace us, everyone, with your presence today. It was brilliant stuff. But Jakey boy, before we go to Jesse, how did you enjoy today's games? It was great to get. I'll tell you what, it was great for me to get up. I got up about 6:30, and by 7:30, I had breakfast made, sitting in front of the TV, and I'm there watching rugby league. It was a great Sunday.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I slept in. Currently home alone at the moment, so I've had a good sleep in, and taking my time getting up in the morning. And yeah, the footy was great. I am 2 for 2 in my tips so far, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Do you know what? I enjoyed myself.
Jesse, how did you enjoy today?
It was good. Yeah, it was nice to wake up early morning and see some footy on the telly. But yeah, I'm 0 for 2. Thanks, Jake. Thanks for reminding me. I didn't even realize how things went that way. I was like, Jesus Christ, that really shit the bed early on. But yeah, no, it was obviously big day for the footy, Vegas, big day for Supercoach. Everything sort of kicking off. I was actually quite entertained. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think the Panthers and Sharks game didn't flow as well as I'd liked, but either way, it's just good to have everything back and running. So. That was good. Good day all.
Talk to us. Let's get into it. Let's get into some Supercoach news from today. It's the fallout from it. First game up was obviously the Raiders versus the Wars. They're still the Wars at the moment, but that then didn't start great.
No, they got some Warriors at the moment, don't they?
There it is.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, 30-8. It was It just seemed like the Warriors had no answer to anything at all. They were on the back foot pretty much the whole game. A few bomb tries as well, but the Raiders look classy. Like they put it on them early. They were quick. They always just seemed to be a foot ahead. So it was a good win by the Raiders. Actually, I obviously went against both the winning sides today, but you guys clearly didn't. Big scores. No, I just don't get footy, to be fair. At the moment, I'm barely getting Supercoach. Couple of massive ones. Xavier Savage obviously lit it up, 114 points with a rescore. So the scores have been updated for now. They might get redone again, coming next week. But yeah, he led it all. He's the first ton of the year so far with a 114. Ethan Strange was classy as anything too. He got a couple of extra try assists. 89 points for him. Chris, first try scorer as well. 86. Tomoko, 83. Just class. They were all sort of involved with it all. Horsburgh was a big one. He was everywhere for pretty much the first half. He was pretty much every tackle. Every run that he did was an offload. So he'll get I'd imagine he gets a pretty hefty rescore because they were all effective offloads as far as I saw. So that should be pretty good. Hosking was a very popular addition late on as well. He actually got downgraded to a 57. He lost his try assist and the line break assist, I'm pretty sure it was. So it's a bit rough on that end. And down the Raiders side, Kyle Weeks, 33. Not ideal considering it was a massive win for him. But the side looked good. So he'll definitely get involved a little bit more on that end. And for the Warriors...
Just quickly, can I ask you just a quick question? I know it's more just rapid fire here, but just on the Weeks thing, because... we do know a lot of people, and we actually spoke about him last week, and shout out to Trav as well, who ended up playing him. If you weren't in the Legends group, that is some late mail you missed out on, but he did go to weeks before kickoff. I know you were one of the ones that were pretty keen as well. I think at some point you had him in your team. What are you thinking after today's game? Because I said in the chat to Trav, and he acknowledged what I was saying. I just thought I get a lot of Reece Walsh vibes off him because that was a good scoreline today, and I think most of the, let's say, top 8 to 10 Supercoach fullbacks in the game would probably have scored at least, let's say, 70, 75 at least, I feel like. And we're sitting there and it's not nowhere near that. So I just feel like it's a bit underwhelming. I know it's only early, but it just didn't seem too good. And he just doesn't seem to have the absolute sky that, or the ceiling that Reece Walsh has either.
Well, he did all right for what he actually put on the plate, to be fair. He didn't get any major attacking. He actually didn't get any attacking stat at all. There was no contributions or tries or assists or anything there. So essentially, you're basically just looking at his base as a flaw. It's definitely something to improve on, by all means. Like he should get himself amongst attack somewhere along the line. But it always just seemed like he was the man before it happened, or he was just in and around it. But then Strange was really busy, so he kind of got into it as well, and it went wide a lot of the time too. So I think he'll definitely have better games. But yeah, look, if that's going to be the worst kind of score that he'll put out, a 33, it's not ideal considering. But look, it's the first round. Vegas, that kind of thing. You can kind of just take it for what it is. I think he'll definitely build on it and work into the season as it goes. But yeah, that's not the it's not the flaw that you have to really worry about, like a Metcalf's score for today, for example. That was just shocking. And that's as bad as it can get for those kind of players too. So yeah, 33, he gets a try, he gets an assist somewhere. All of a sudden it's 50, 60. Like, it's not hard to do for someone as busy as Weeks will get. So yeah, I don't hate it, man. I really don't.
Fair enough.
Just another quick one too. Sorry, on the Raiders, I forgot to touch on him. Tamale, 73 points. That was a massive score. Same thing as well. No contribution to attack. No nothing. It was just basically 73 points in base.
That's a crazy base.
It's monstrous, man.
It was ridiculous base.
Yeah, it's huge. But the only thing is now, like, we kind of have to wait and see what happens when Hopewadi's back. Because, look, if Tamale's done enough that game to impress, which he obviously did, if he can keep a spot there, there's a cheapie to really look into. His current break even with that score going into next week will be minus 25.5. So if we get word that he keeps a spot, he's a favorite over Hopewadi for whatever reason, man, he's going to be very popular trade in very soon. He could be the first cashy that we really get a look at. So yeah, but that's everything on the Raiders. For the Warriors, oh, geez, there wasn't a lot going. Roger sort of headed the line at 73 points with that try, and he bombed one too. So it's not bad for Roger, to be honest. It's pretty good. You'll take a 73 every day, considering you pay $5.50 for him. But going down the ranks, it drops off pretty quick. Fisher Harris, Barnett, 61 and 55 respective. Nothing of note, to be honest. Everything, a lot of middling 30s. It's all bad, but the game reflected a lot of it too. The elephant in the room, Metcalf. 12 points. He got a rescore up, which was generous considering he basically doubled his score in a rescore. So it was bad. Really bad. Considering his ownership at the moment, though, he's over 50%, I believe. A lot of people are in it, and everyone suffers. But the thing is, they won't suffer unless they had McLean, for example, because this is going to be a really nice example of what a flex is going to take over. So sorry, Jake. You're going to keep Metcalf's score. But yeah, just not entirely around the flex. Basically, if Metcalf's score this week is your lowest, your flex, providing they score more than 12, will take his points out. So it's a really good example of how a really bad score, consider Metcalf a HIA early on, your flex will cover that. And you will not have to look at it. You'll just have to go into a long wait until round 2, looking at that 12 points and just wondering how to get him out as fast as possible if you're a rage trader. So, not a good game for the Warriors, Supercoach wise or, real life. So, not much happened on that one.
Thanks to that 5'8" position, just still doing wonderful things for us. We've seemed to hate this position for a long time now, and it started 2025 just the same.
Yeah, sorry. And Trav probably had the worst of it too with a Metcalf and Weeks combination. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
For the Panthers and the Sharks, this was a close one too towards the end. It was a bit of a dogfight for a while. Panthers obviously got up 28-22. And just a game of quality, really. The game of the two premium forwards in Yo and Fanua Blake basically just putting their foot down, stamping their authority as the number one in their positions. A 90 and a 92 for Fanua Blake, both tries. quite early for Yo as well. I thought, geez, he's on now. This is a good sign for all those lucky Yo owners in the world. Joel.
Thank you.
Dane Laurie got an 88 coming off the bench very early for McLean. So, yeah, look, every time Laurie gets a run, he always scores massive. So that was a big game for him. Edwards, the staple 75 as usual, just getting his work done. Lindsay Smith was very impressive with a 73 in his first stint. So, well, that's a starting front rower covering for Fisher Harris. That was really good stuff from him. Cleary 68. He was extremely busy, and he probably should have got 3 try assists considering the work that he put into him. He ended up getting 1, and the other 2 were considered as contributions. So that could have been a 95, 100-pointer pretty easily as well. So
is that a rescore, or are they still in the middle of doing that one?
It was a rescore. He did get the bump. This game, Sharks and Panthers game, has been updated as well, but I do want to see what happens at the end of the round. Because they might review it again. Fingers crossed he gets some more points. But again, his ownership's so high, everyone's kind of in with it. Going down, it was just a lot of mid-50s and 40s. It was all good stuff. McLean, obviously, with a 4-pointer. So that's really unlucky. That's basically what the flex is here to cover, that kind of injury. Actually, to a T, pretty much exactly what happened. So just really unfortunate that Metcalf was not very good. What else have we got for them?
Lucky Jake.
Unlucky Jake. No good, man. For the Sharks.
I can't believe it. I honestly can't.
I saw him go down in that tackle too, and I was like, oh, did he just cop a knee? And watching him staggering up, I was like, oh god, that's the first one that we'll see. That sucks.
Everybody on the chat was like, oh yeah, no, it's all right. We've got the flex, and like for Metcalf, and I'm like, yeah, sweet. Oh, I forgot all about that. That's awesome. And then I saw McLean go down, and I'm like,
no, yeah, that's so unlucky. Man, Sharks went big in some spots here. Ramian massive with a 93. It was actually Ramian's greediness at the end of the game that pretty much cost him going into a golden point situation too for Stone Street. So, yeah, it could have been more. But either way, if you've got him, which is not very many, 93 is a massive score for him. Nakora 66 is solid. Kyle Lero again 65 points, just a freak. Running down, Trindle 57 and Hines 50. So this little debate about what the halves dominant thing, it's pretty clear and obvious, isn't it? It looks like Trindle's still the main man, steering the Sharks around, which is just bad news for Hines overall. So hindsight, I'm not too
goal kicking.
Yeah, and no goal kicking this week. I'd be interested to see if that sticks. I think he's still probably lingering, maybe a bit of that abductor injury, but yeah, that took away from even more points for him. So not ideal. Rolling down, 40 for Stone Street's not too bad. A couple of low scores. Mulatalo, 28. Again, he's a rocks and diamonds kind of guy. Nothing else majorly relevant. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, nothing else super relevant outside of all that stuff.
It
was Tuppenny had a sin bin before.
Yeah.
In the
he was
first
just
one,
an idiot and got that penalty that Penrith scored off straight after.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, the one where he went in with Martin or something on the ground,
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah,
Lost
mate,
it.
you're gonna lose that
for no reason. Yeah,
for nothing. Yeah, pointless. So yeah, the Sharks kind of did himself in really. If you look at the way they played, they had everything there. They could have, got up that game if they just wasn't for a couple of bad decisions. But overall, pretty good game of footy. To keep up with the Panthers like that, to be fair, pretty good signs from the Sharks. So yeah, they could be building onto something quite well. But man, that Penrith juggernaut, there's really no stopping them, is there? Take out anyone you want. It's just they'll keep rolling. So
it was super, super impressive. And me and Jake are about to deep dive into those games. So Jesse, before you go, just a quick preview into what we speak about Wednesday night. Any player that's on your radar from those 4 teams at the moment that you're going, early thoughts are if I rage trade, I want to try and get this player. A bit of a team.
Yeah, kind of. So obviously, like you've got Yo. I'm very curious about Yo. I was doing a bit of a break-even watch, and I might put it through on the Legends group to start, just so we can get some idea about how these prices or these scores will go into the next round or two. Because the first round, it's pretty much the least important round for break-evens, rolling average. But again, it does definitely contribute when you've got players like Savage already on a minus 26.5 break-even going into round 2. But Yo and Fanua Blake both come down to like a middling 50 break even, which is more than achievable for them. So there's a good chance by round 4, these guys have shot up quite a lot in price. So, yeah, I'm just, at the moment, I just kind of want to see how Tuesday looks. I went into the Vegas games with only 3 players. I kind of wanted to keep it quite minimal, not get too involved with the players and lockouts and stuff, just to see how everything kind of lines up. But yeah, at the same time, I've kind of missed a few. Tom Starling's a big one on my radar. I thought he was really impressive. He could be one of those, if he locks down a 60, 70-minute spot, give or take, like there's huge value in that. Outside of that, man, I'm pretty happy with, the ones that I've got, but obviously the guns are always appealing. You're always trying to work a way to get those big dogs in if you didn't start with them. So yeah, it'll be a good one on Wednesday for sure.
We'll do it Wednesday again, Supercoach wise. But yeah, we'll see you Wednesday. Thank you.
Enjoy, boys. Thanks for having me on.
I will. See you, brother.
See you.
Jakey boy, let's get into it. Commiserations once again, just about obviously your Supercoach team, not the greatest start at all, but we push on. We push on. First off, we'll talk about the first game of the day. What we'll probably do is we'll go Super League, the women's game, and then we'll end with the 2 NRL games. So just do it. We won't go too deep into either of these 2 games to start with, but then to save it content-wise, go much deeper into both NRL games. The Super League side of things, we just want to quickly talk about Wigan and how good they were. Absolute class above, it seems like, Warrington, who I believe has had a decent start to the Super League campaign under Sammy Burgess. The only thing I really want to touch on, Jai Field, every time I watch Wigan and watch these games, he seems to just be one of the stars. But the main guy I want to talk about, and no disrespect to many others out there, but just Bevan French is a freak. And I just was watching that, and I put a post out about it today on the page. Plenty of people got around it, got involved. I can think off the top of my head probably 5 or 6 NRL teams right now who could add him into their lineup, whether this year or next year, and already improve. Already straight away they'll improve, having him maybe as a 5'8", perhaps even at fullback again, go from there. So I think there was a few people in the comments that he has signed now a longer-term deal with Wigan. I'm not too sure. I haven't had time to actually look that far into it. But just hypothetically, if he was able to come and sign back into the NRL, sometimes these players do have clauses when it comes to NRL clubs and they can get out that year or things like that. Jake, I tell you, there would be a number of clubs ready to pounce, I believe, and make them a lot better for the team because we're both Para fans, obviously. We say it almost every episode, but he was on the day a winger and slash would cover at fullback when needed. He's matured so much as a footy player. He's so dangerous. There's some people out there that were saying today, he wouldn't cut it in the NRL, blah, blah, blah. I think absolute bull, you know what, because I think he definitely would these days, and I'd be so excited to see him have another stint before he gets a bit too old and he's sort of on the downward spiral. I'd like to see him while he's still on that up.
Yeah, no, definitely. When he sort of did go from the Eels, when he went to play for us, like when he was on the wing, I thought it was his absolute best position because he just had that try scoring ability. Like he just would find the line. It didn't matter what position you put him in position. I mean, obviously on the wing, but I mean like where he got the ball in relation to the defense. Like it didn't matter. He just found his way to the line every time. I didn't like what he covered at fullback for us personally. I just thought his defense was a little bit not there, but in terms of like recently, you're right. He's absolutely developed as a player. Like he's improved out of sight from when he used to play for Para. And I think that, look, that could be because he's in the Super League and it's considered sort of probably like not as strong of a competition kind of thing. But I definitely think that he could come to make it in the NRL for sure. There's no reason why not. I mean, like what have Wigan won? Is it 3 in a row?
Yeah, I think it is.
Something along those lines. Look, you can't be that bad and be the main man in a team that's gone 3 in a row. It just doesn't matter what the competition is. So
I think he's already won a Man of Steel as well, and many out there are already predicting he's up there for this year's award as well, which would be madness. I don't know much about the issue there, but I don't think there's many that have gone a double when it comes to Man of Steel, especially as an Australian player over there. So he's obviously killing it over there. And from what every time I see it, like I do feel like in a way the game over there is getting slowly but surely a little bit better. I hope that these rumors are around about the NRL wanting to buy the Super League are correct, because if that is the case, I see it actually soaring and being huge for that game over there and being probably vital for the growth of that sport moving forward. One final thing we'll just mention on this game, the English fans, I know there's a bit of controversy out there. There was some people at the start of this wasn't sure if Tubelic's just trying to jump on the NRL's coattails here and ride off the momentum of Vegas. But I think it's fair to say, obviously, we weren't over there, but from everyone that's been over there that have talked about it, clearly from what I watched today, the atmosphere that they've brought has been absolutely class. And I just think that a fantastic atmosphere, the singing, the dancing, the cheering, so noisy, and it just makes that atmosphere that much better. I just question, the only thing I question there is why NRL, if they look back now and they wonder, we should have kept them for a bit later in the day and just had that sort of build up where it could have been probably even louder with a few more supporters there jumping on the Wigan or the Warrington bandwagon, getting into their songs and stuff like that. I think, yeah, it would have been nice to see when the stadium was a bit more full. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I definitely get that. Like, I suppose, especially because like you have sort of those English fans that have come across and they only get it's the one game only that they get over there, whereas we get sort of two. It would have been nice to possibly have that as the mid game between the two NRL ones, so that then they get to watch the NRL game, then they get to watch their like the one that they sort of came for more so, and then the other NRL game kind of thing. I think it would have been nice to sort of be sandwiched in there instead of being the first one. Like, I understand the idea that it's kind of like. Well, not the idea that the way it was sort of programmed in, it kind of made it feel like it was a reserve grade game, if that makes sense. Like, it just made it feel like a not important game. It was too early, to be honest. Yeah. And so, yeah, I definitely think that it should have been pushed probably in the middle of the game. Either they do, one NRL, then the Super League and women's, and then the other NRL, or other way around. Women's game first, NRL, Super League, NRL, whatever. It definitely, I feel like it could have been. Betterly. That's not a word. It could have definitely been better programmed, for sure.
I absolutely agree. Next up, we'll speak about the women's game. Obviously, the Gillaroos versus England. I want to start this conversation just by saying one thing here is that we do not mean any disrespect towards the women's game whatsoever. If anything, you've known we done the podcast with NRLW, Watch Our Footy, done plenty of posts now. We've got a dedicated person for our NRLW posts and to help grow the women's game. We've done that, even though it's not currently the biggest part of what we do. We are growing that side of the page. So we love the women's game. We've had a couple of the players come on and interview. We've got a couple in the works as well. So we're all for it. This is no disrespect at all, but I just was watching that game today, and the first probably about 3 minutes where England had a bit of confidence and had a couple of nice little runs, I was like, oh, yeah, this could be a cool game. And that quickly fizzled out to the point where I think it was an extremely bad advertisement for the game over there and trying to grow a women's game over there, a comp, or get some women players over to the NRLW if that's the plan. Apparently there's a lot of American women over there that are sort of in between a few sort of sports that the NRL has sort of said, let's try and get that market. I don't know if that game helped at all today, and it's a hard one to comment on and be too harsh on because this is nothing to do with the Gillaroos players. They're just absolutely ridiculous. They're on another level to pretty much every country that's currently playing the game. And that's a huge credit to the Australian game at the moment, the NRLW, and what they're doing for the women's sport over here. Second to none. Unbelievable how much this has grown and how quickly it has. I don't know what the answer is here, Jake, because that just was not for mine. That wasn't a good spectacle. That didn't do it for me. And to be the second last game as well, I think made it even worse because we just had an NRL game, which was really exciting and fun. And the Raiders ended up running away with a little bit, but the Warriors stayed in the fight for a lot of it and made them work, which was good. And then we went to a game where it felt like the Gillaroos were scoring whenever they wanted to, and it just wasn't exciting to watch. And it just sort of dimmed the mood a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think 90-4 is a bit of a mood dimmer in any capacity, and especially when you're going over to sort of highlight the game to Americans, right? That's the point of going to Vegas. We're not there to show off like Australian, like we are there to show off Australian athletes, but not in that capacity. We're not going over to be like, hey, we're the best at this. Like, look, I think my answer would probably be I'd love to see like an all-stars match kind of style, like exhibition-y match kind of thing. So like I would have loved to see, like, you get two either ex-NRLW or ex-NRL coaches or something like that, and either they can choose their players or do, if you wanted to, you could do the instead of having the women's match, the Indigenous versus Maori match, like early in, like when we had it, when the other game is, it could be pushed back down to be done in Vegas instead. Possibly that could be an option. I don't know. I think there's definitely better choices for matches than what we took over there for sure. Especially when we saw that Australian side, and we sort of said last week, like, this is going to be a thrashing. This isn't going to be a close game. Like we knew it was going to happen because we just know the how good the Aussies are. But imagine if you split that team in half, added some extra sort of players, and they went at each other. That'd be, you know what I mean? Like, that's when you're showing what these girls can do against, like, stronger opponents.
It's because a few people mentioned New Zealand that today, take them over. I'm actually a bit worried at the moment because I actually just think Dillaroos are that far ahead. It's not funny. And I don't even think. I think the Kiwis obviously would have had a much better game and they would have gone at it a lot more. But I still think the Dillaroos probably run away with it just at this current stage where their team is just ridiculous. Like they're probably missing arguably the best female front row in the game at the moment in Millie Elliott. It used to be Boyle for those who don't follow the game too much. But like that's just showing you how good they are and the depth is just ridiculous. When I think about what I would have done if they are set on continuing the women's side of involvement over there, which I'm not against whatsoever, by the way, I support that. I don't know if the game will like this. I don't know if it's going to be too early for them. I would actually throw a State of Origin game over there. The first one for the women's game, I know it's early for them. I know it's then you have to wait a few months before game 2, which might not suit well or sit well with the game trying to advertise things like that. But I then put the argument forward. You're basically, as you said, Jake, you're splitting both of that team basically up to 50-50 of all the stars. And you're going over there and you're showing them a game where it's going to be literally the women at each other from get-go. It's going to be close. It's going to be bash each other up. People are going to sit there in the stands like we always do watching the women's Origin, which has grown and grown every year. It's gotten better and better. It's now a must-see event. It's a must-see event every single time now. We're at the start, very, very start. You're like, oh, yeah, if I've got some time in my schedule, I'll watch it. But now you're like, no, I'm watching Thursday night to watch that Origin game. I just think that would be an awesome spectacle over there to actually showcase that. And the Americans sit back and go, oh, hang on. Look at those two bashing each other, basically. Like, that's what we want to see. We don't want to see 20-odd tries by the Aussies, and it just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. And, yeah, that's my idea. Let us know in the comments what your ideas are for that and how you'd want to see it. I just think, yeah, it just left a really sour taste in my mouth. And, again, the timing of that game just was a little bit odd, in my opinion, as well. The NRLW. Sorry, not the NRL games today. So the first one obviously was the Canberra Raiders up against the New Zealand Warriors. Huge game. Raiders went in outsiders, which I thought was bonkers. Obviously, both me and Jake are 2 from 2 for tipping so far. So we're sitting here all happy, high and mighty. They just tell us your thoughts about the game. Actually, what you've seen early on.
I saw errors. I saw lots of errors early on from both teams, admittedly, but where the Raiders kind of eventually shored that up and kind of started to really put it together, the Warriors didn't. I thought that the forward pack from the Raiders just gave so much more go-ahead pretty much the entire game, and I know that there's something that you want to talk about with the Warriors for that, so I won't delve too much into sort of why that is. I'll let you hit that point later, but I saw that. The biggest thing I saw was outside backs domination as well. Like, it was just honestly, if I had to be honest, it was domination across the park because there wasn't a single area, honestly, that I thought, wow, the Warriors have actually got it over the Raiders in this spot. I think the Raiders just had them everywhere. One sort of big thing for me is, God, they are wasting Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on either the center or the wing. I don't care, center or wing or whatever. He needs to be the fullback of that side. You know what I mean? Like, look, Chancellor Nickel-Cox did a good job. he did. He did a passable job, I'd say. Yeah, passable would be the option. Like, I wouldn't say he was anywhere near the worst player on that field, but at the same time, I think that putting him out in the centers and letting him basically be that that go-to man on the centers, and having Tuivasa-Sheck to be that basically that surge of energy and attack. I just think every time he had the ball, he looked electric, but he got the ball 3 times in the game. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, little rant over.
We'll hit that first, that fullback, because I've said it in our previews. Everyone that listens or watches this podcast knows by now. I'm not just saying this off today's performance, but I actually ranked Chance third in the fullback status there at the Warriors. I have probably I understand your point, but personally, I'll probably have Tane Tuapiki first, just because I really enjoy. I love him as a player. I think we once again hardly got to see anything that he can do today as well, which is a problem. I liked Rogers' involvement. He seemed to have a bit of a roaming sort of role today, which if that's how they're going to play him moving forward in that wing role where he's going to get the kick returns as well, I don't mind it, but I do get what you're saying. I think when you compare him to Chance, I definitely want Roger over Chance at the back every day of the week. My worry at the moment with the Warriors in this fullback discussion is it feels like, in a way, Andrew Webster's choosing Chance because he's done the job in the past. And when I'm saying the past, probably not even last year, but probably the year before, 2023, he was probably really, really good. And I'm just feeling like maybe Andrew Webster's getting stuck at the moment where he doesn't want to go all in and make some crazy calls. He wants to keep some key plays in his playing group happy. And going off some of these selections he's done today, I don't think he's going about it the right way. And I think he's got to quickly have a couple of big, deep discussions with a few key people at that club and snap out of it, because this season could be over for them quicker than they know it if they're going to continue to play like they did today, because they were not good. They weren't anywhere near it. And you can say a week, so it's going to be almost 2 weeks, is a long time in rugby league for them now that they get the turnaround. But at the same time, it's also they've got to recover now. They've got to come back from Vegas, which we've seen last year took most of those clubs a little bit of time to do as well. And they've got to also add in the travel from New Zealand to Australia every time they have to play over in this country as well. So a few headaches in there. And that fullback one, I just don't think Chance is the best option. I think Chance would be much more dangerous in that team at the moment at center, or even him on the wing.
Yeah.
I just
Chance has played center before. I know he did it at the Raiders for a little bit there. He played center over there. And when he played there, I always was impressed by him. I've said this on the podcast a fair bit before, so I don't really want to sort of hound on it. I wouldn't mind Tuapiki at the back, but at the same time, I feel like he could use some more development, and he's only young. So it wouldn't bother me and he looked at home on the wing in the sense of I still think he's a better fullback, but he looked like he could definitely do the job on the wing for a while, and learn under Roger is how I would do it for him. Because you know what? Roger's not going to be in the game for that much longer, I'd imagine, especially because he's sort of, he's getting on in age kind of thing a little bit. But at the same time, he's still an absolute weapon. There are probably, I don't want to name them, but there's probably maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 possibly fullbacks I'd have ahead of Roger in my top 8 kind of thing. And that's only because he has been playing there for a while. But as a fullback, from going off what he has done and when he's filled in and stuff like that, I'd still pick him over so many fullbacks in the game right now. And the fact that he is not even getting a look in and not even getting a possibility of going there, it's honestly a little bit sort of shocking to me. Because if you look, I really want the Warriors to succeed. And if you look at their team on paper, to be honest, they should have such a strong side. The other thing, and I know it's a bit of an elephant in the room kind of situation, is I don't understand why Tamari Martin was not on that field. I cannot understand that at all. And not only can I not understand why he wasn't on the field, I doubly cannot understand why he was not in the 7 on that field with Luke Metcalf in the 6. He should be running that team. We saw he can do it last year. He played 7 last year when Sean Johnson was out. He scored, I'll use it in Supercoach terms. He scored over 100 3 times, 3 games in a row, which isn't very, common in players. I'm using Supercoach terms just to make it easier, but he crushed it in those games. That was one of the, I think the first one was up in Magic Round, which I was there, saw it happen, where they beat the Panthers at the peak of their powers. The Panthers had a full-strength side, and they came out with Tamari Martin in the 7, and they won that game. Why is he not their starting 7? What has he done? Has he slept with Shane Webster's wife or something? Like, I just don't understand what is going on.
Andrew Webster.
Okay. Andrew Webster. I'm sorry. I was popping off.
He got too fired up. He's too fired up.
I'm sorry.
I'll let him take a breath. It's also like, what I say is, what has Chanel Harris-Tavita done since he's come back to the game to warrant that selection? I just feel like he was, to pretty much everyone, including Warriors fans out there, whenever we did team previews and predict your lineup and things like that, I don't think I've seen anywhere where Chanel was picked in the halves. It was always a Metcalf with Tamari Martin, was pretty much what says everyone. The set, that was it. That's how they go. And I listened to him in commentary, and Sean Johnson spoke about it as well. He goes, last year, whenever I was out, he just naturally just took the team on. And we said it a couple of times, but they almost played better last year when Tamari Martin was there and Johnson was out, which was a huge piece of credit.
They did play better.
Yeah, like
they didn't almost play better. They played better.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if this is again a little bit of a personal thing. They've effectively, it seems like they're giving Metcalf the keys to the castle, which, okay, fair enough. I know there's been so many raps on this guy for a number of years now. He probably wants to put his foot down and show that he can do it. But there's also times where you've got to make sure as the coach, you do what's best for your football team. And I just think Metcalf playing 5'8" still, where last year he was supposed to be that. He only got to play a handful of games because of injury once again. He hasn't had time, in my opinion, to develop as that full-blown star 5'8" that most people out there believe he can be. He hasn't even got to that stage yet. So now we're throwing him into halfback and telling him no matter what, every single play you're directing this team, he's just not up to it yet. He might have that in his game down the track, but I just think when you've got someone like Tamari Martin there who can do that role, throw him in. This is effectively a new team. They've lost so much experience over the off season, but if this is the first game we've seen how it's going to affect him, by the looks of it, even with James Fisher-Harris there now, it's going to really affect him. It will a lot. And they need someone like Tamari Martin there to just be that calming influence on this team. And especially while you go back to your point, you've got Rogers playing on the wing where he's almost out of the equation for a lot of things. He can't help the team out probably anywhere near as much as he probably would like. So knowing coaches and what they're like, he won't sully his pride yet. It'll take another few losses until something I reckon will happen. But in my opinion, I'd be changing it as early as round 2. I'd be putting Metcalf to 5'8", and I'd be putting Tamari Martin at halfback.
The question for you, though, with that, though, is does that sort of shatter the confidence of the players who were picked? I think that's what we should have done in the first place, because then sort of that's the precedent, and we sort of would have expected it to go a little bit better. If he changes it round 2, if he doesn't give it at least one more sort of week, does he then sort of run the risk of kind of shattering the confidence of Chanel Harris-Tavita, Metcalf? Like, is he going to kind of go, like, how do you break the news to them that basically you did shit, you're going to get moved without breaking their confidence? Because that's only round 1. Like, I don't know. The way I see it is I want that change to happen, but I think it's how it should have been in the first place. If they make that change immediately, if it does go well, or even if it goes poorly, it's kind of almost a lose-lose, because then it's like you're hurting the confidence. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I know what you're saying, and I do agree with it for a certain point, because there's one point that I'll make at the end here, because it's going to segue into another point I want to make about this lineup. But my other part of that is it's the NRL. You can't keep saying to some of these players, all right, I'm backing you for another few weeks. As I said, like seasons, and we've seen it so many times in the past where you just think, oh yeah, this team's in a bad run, and then all of a sudden they're basically out of finals contention after 12 weeks. They've got 2 wins, 10 losses or something, and we're going, oh, this team isn't finding form. Like, what's happened here? So I just feel like at the start of the season is the time where you do play around a little bit and you need to get those wins up. It has to happen. But then the only way I'll go to your point, I'll go, you know what? I will give them 1 or 2 more weeks together because their forward pack got absolutely bashed today. The Raiders, when we actually have spoke about it a couple of times, I think a lot of people out there are underestimating this Roosters team in general because I think they're a quality outfit this year.
You mean Raiders?
Sorry. Who did I say?
Said Roosters.
The Raiders. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. It's been a big day, guys.
Right.
About 10 hours of football. Look out. Plus content after that. The Raiders, the Canberra Raiders. So they are a quality outfit, in my opinion. Their forward pack is world class. They've got a seriously tough and skillful. We've seen it a lot of times today. A bit of footwork heading into the line. Even big Josh Papali'i was getting into some footwork. He had a couple of runs there where he put a step on. That's a team that you really need to respect coming into it. And the Warriors didn't, in my opinion. The Warriors, and it sounds like we're going hard at Andrew Webster, but again, he's got something wrong here. And this is a coach's fault. This subbing that he did, this interchanging, where he's 2 key middlemen. I know Barnett got moved to lock at the start, but for mine, I rushed and got him into my Supercoach team because of this, because I thought that meant he's going to push him to play almost every single minute of this game, and he's going to just rip and tear it until he basically falls over from exhaustion, like he's done. And then we're going to get a decent stint from James Fisher-Harris, and he'll probably come on to give Barnett a quick 15-minute break, and then we'll get them both towards the back end going again. But they were both off after about 20 minutes, I think it was, and they all of a sudden bring on both Dylan Walker and Aaron Clark together. I don't know what Andrew Webster's thinking was when this has happened, but that was obviously an idea he put together because there was no injuries. There was no HIA. It was just 2 interchanges. How stupid. I don't want to be too harsh, but you got to call it out the way you see it here. And that's some of the dumbest tactics I've seen. You got two world-class middles who I think it's very clear, even before today's ball kicked off, they're the keys to your team doing anything on a week-to-week basis. They've got to get up, get forward. When you've got a forward pack like the Raiders who are dominating, you don't take them off after 20 minutes. You go to you keep at least one on. You go to one night, go have your quick 10-minute break because I need you back on here shortly. We're getting bashed. You send Aaron Clark or Walker out to do one of his stints, and then you start. You don't bring on both and bring off both and bring on the other 2. For mine, it just did not make any sense whatsoever. I just sat there. I was shaking my head the whole time. I couldn't believe it. And then it felt like they were off for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Once Barnett sort of went off, I kind of was sitting there for majority of that game going like, where is he? Like, they need him out there. And I don't know. Look, I think what Shane Webster – again, I think what Andrew – I don't know where Shane's come from. I don't know. I think what Andrew Webster needs to sort of do is evaluate who's got the bigger engine out of those 2, which it's a tough one because I think either of them would go the 80 if you needed them to be honest. But who's got the most effective, like, however many minutes he needs them for on there? Play them both. My personal thoughts are playing both in prop. I understand, like, don't get me wrong, Barnett looked really great at the start of that game when he was playing in lock. He really did. He looked awesome. I just think having the 2, having the 2 up front, just kind of imagine, you're not going to want to walk into that game. Like you said, like you don't, that's the sort of game where you sort of go, oh, I've done a hammy. I don't want to go in. But what I mean? Like, you don't want to be going up against Barnett and the Fish. But he needs to basically identify which one of them can go longer, like stronger for longer kind of thing. Take the other one off for sort of 10 or whatever. Then once he gets back on, sub him for him, and then so you're keeping one on sort of at all times, and then you're getting them both on whenever you can. I definitely agree with you on that. But one person I kind of in a forward pack that I really want to give a shout out to, and I am a big doubter of him. I did not expect this, but that is Corey Horsburgh.
We're getting there. Hang on. Oh, we're on the Warriors. Right. We're on the Warriors. We're getting there.
All right, I'll stay where I'm at. I'll call my Jets. I'll stay where I'm at. But yeah, look, I think Jackson forward, he needs to continue to be a starter for them. He's never, ever impressed me off the bench. He is a starting second rower. He needs to stay a starting second rower. Maradania Corey, we know what he can do, both in offense and in defense. Like, he hits hard, he runs hard. Like, they've got a strong forward pack. It's just about I'm hoping that Andrew Webster does fix out his rotations, because once he figures them out, they've got a really strong forward pack. One last thing on, I thought Dylan Walker actually didn't look too bad when he came on, but Aaron Clark today had hands like feet. Every time he even went near catching the ball, I dead set thought this guy's going to drop it again. He just never looked confident once.
I don't think you can have both of them on the bench again. You just need to bite the bullet and have one of them start each week, and then have them come on for each other, basically. I just don't think you can have both of them on the field either, unless one of your halves go down mid-game and Dylan Walker's forced to play in the halves because of that. Apart from that, I would not be having in my game plan having both of those because as soon as Barnett went off, that next set, Raiders broke through Aaron Clark being lazy after just coming on, and they scored a try straight away. And that's just something, even if Barnett was a little bit tired, he would have got there. He's that rep player now. We talk about confidence and stuff. He's just coming off his career best year. His confidence is sky high, and for a forward, that's huge. You just want to have them playing as long as they're happy to play. Like, yeah, I still can't wrap my head around it. So let us know in the comments what you feel as well. Raiders wise, you mentioned it. So just before we go into the Corey Hawes, right, because he was sensational today. Jesse mentioned it before on a Supercoach point of view. He was everywhere. But one thing that really impressed me at the start of this game, like, they're going sort of end to end. They're bashing each other. Raiders got over the line, scored that try. Then they had a couple of sets there where they became the Raiders of old, where they started to force a few things, made a couple of, I think they didn't complete 2 or 3 sets after that and just kept making silly mistakes. I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Ricky's going to be tearing his hair out here because this is the Raiders of old. They get a try and then they try too much and they get ahead of themselves. They didn't do that. They then snapped themselves out of it. It's like Foggy got to them and said, let's relax a bit here, boys. Like, what are we doing? And they did. And they just went back into things and I was like, okay, they've learned something in the off season here. And that's really, really impressive. And then I'll talk a bit more on Fogarty after, but we'll go to your man, Jay. Big Red, Corey Horsburgh. Big Red. Sensational.
Oh, mate, look, he's a person who I've never really rated. Like, I know that he he's a rep player and that, he has got, that toughness about him and stuff like that. But, for the last season or 2 seasons, it kind of seems to be like whenever he was on, he was known for having a short fuse, which in some players, it can be a good thing if it's used correctly, or you can just be made out to be a bit of a knob, which unfortunately for him for the last 2 seasons was kind of the latter, right? But today specifically, there's something that really impressed me. Oh, actually, sorry. Yeah. The first time a prop made a call, what's it called? What do you call them? Challenge. He made a correct challenge. And it was a good one too. Yeah, it was an absolutely great captain's challenge. And then I actually thought he challenged it because I looked up at I thought he got 2 in a row, but it wasn't. It was just that they made a mistake on the layout thing. It was actually the Warriors that were making the challenge on him, but it was come up with green. So I thought he'd actually done 2, but he'd only done 1, which is still impressive for a prop. But defensively, he hit anything that moved. Offensively, he ran like an absolute steam train, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought he was absolutely sensational. I know he was named to start at prop, but he clearly started at lock because Papali'i started there as well and took that opening kickoff. So I thought he was sensational. There was a lot of reports in the off-season he was training at lock, and that's proved to be the case. And I think they worked him and Morgan Smithies out quite well. Morgan Smithies seemed to do a lot more just running, which was great. I just can't believe how busy Horsburgh was, and he didn't ever look that tired. Like, he actually looks extremely fit this year, which I think he's not even a smoky anymore in my opinion. Like, he's come back in that mind frame. I think he'll be playing Origin again this year for the Maroons. It'll just be about whether he's going to be starting or on the bench because, yeah, he looks sensational at the moment. It looks like he's really got the shit out of his game as well, which he's obviously had a lot of in the past. One thing I quickly want to go back to, I got it wrong, so I want to make sure I correct myself, just looking at my notes again. So when I was talking about the interchange stuff with Barnett, what I actually wanted to speak about when they made that break, I noticed there was a decision between Ford and Barnett, and it took Barnett off. I just thought that was stupid in my opinion because the next set, that's when Ford was lazy, not Aaron Clark. My apologies. He was the one lazy in D and got beaten. And he was playing in the middle, sort of a new position for him. And I just thought he looks a lot more gassed than, say, your Barnett's did, and he took Barnett off. It just did not make sense. So, again, I keep questioning it. It just does not make sense to me whatsoever. But back to the Raiders.
So I was just going to make a quick comment on Jackson Ford. Something that has bugged me, and this happened last year, and Andrew Webster did it last year, and it's bugged me for a long time now. Jackson Ford is not a prop. Jackson Ford is not a prop. He's not a prop. He does not perform well when he's put into prop. When he plays in second row, he performs better. He's less gassed. He can run hard. He can make his tackles. He is a second rower, and he's one of your better second rowers. Play him there.
There seems to be a bit of an obsession at the moment in the NRL, trying to force edges who are either past it or someone's come in better than them. They're trying to turn them into middles, and I think we're starting to go a bit too heavy in that side of things, because I think there's still some time for a genuine front rower in the game, and I think we've seen from both games today that big bopper, that big enforcer type role is definitely still needed, because for mine, the two teams that won today had those figures in their teams, so pretty crazy there. Back to the Raiders. I mentioned him before, Jamal Fogarty. I continue to rave about this bloke. Everyone knows how big I am on him now. I just think he's still underrated as a football player in this competition, and as a half, I've got him knocking at the door now as one of the better halves in this game, and pretty much almost at elite stage, which I know people will be listening to this going, you're off your head. Just look at the difference he makes to this Canberra Raiders team, and just think, imagine if he was in the top 4 team right now. I reckon he would be getting so many more raps than what he does. The fact he's at Canberra, the fact he missed a good chunk of last year. I think he missed about 10 rounds all up last year. I just think a lot of people sleep on him a bit, and I just want to give him the raps he deserves, because I think even though he wasn't on the highlight reels for a lot of it, what I was watching from him is just his game management and how much he coaches his side on the field, which only the really good playmakers can do and have that ability. He was sensational, I thought. And it allowed the excitement machine of Ethan Strange to then go ahead and do his stuff, which he was sensational today. And that partnership for mine, I know Ethan Sanders is there now as well, and he'll be putting pressure on both of them. But that combination, you can't change anything to do with that there, and they're just growing.
Yeah, well, what I was sort of going to mention based on what you sort of said there was, I know that you had a little bit of a chat earlier on the season where we sort of thought about you sort of talked about like Ethan Strange maybe moving into the centers, or like possibly, if something's not working or something like that. But I looked up his stats, and I just thought, before I even get into stats, yes, he looked amazing. On the point of Fogarty, you're right. The reason Ethan Strange can do what he does is because Fogarty is taking the thinking out of it for him. Like, he's running everything and basically going, when you get the ball, you either have to run, pass, or run harder. Like, you don't have, you've got very limited options. You don't need to do much thinking. But in terms of stats, Ethan Strange got 2 line break assists, 2 try assists, and 2 tackle breaks, which I just think in general is just great stats for any half. Like, you're not going to look at that. No coach is going to look at that and go, oh, you should have done better. Like, that's great, honestly, within a game. And other than that, his stats weren't necessarily incredible, but they're the sort of important ones. Like, if you're putting try assists on the board, you're doing a good job. You're throwing the passes that need to be thrown, kind of thing. But yeah, so the other thing I was going to say before we sort of going into it, but like the other thing of, if we were going to move Ethan Strange to the centers, who do you replace? Because I tell you what, they're centers today and they're wingers. Just who do you change? You don't, because you keep it as is. It was fantastic. If they can keep that like pack on the field, they will be a strong side this year. They look like a top 8 side, and it's not even close. Like, they definitely look like they should. If they can keep their side on the field and play like that, they should be top 8.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree, and I think all of us had South in our top 8 before all the crap has happened, which happened literally 2 days after our ladder predictions, which was great timing, and then to post out and help everyone understand that we actually made these predictions before all this stuff happened. I think Raiders will probably be the team for mine that jumps in for the Bunnies at this stage. Xavier Savage, I want to talk about him, but first of all, I want to talk about a moment in this game which really let me down a little bit, because I was looking forward to seeing how the officiating would be this year. There was a moment for majority of this first game, I thought it was pretty good. I'll give him credit. But this one here, where Savage made contact on Harris DeVita's leg when he put that kick up, I thought that was a guaranteed sin bin. I thought we've seen that last year. Pretty much every time it happened, it was a sin bin. And now it felt like to me it was like a El Vegas rule where we're going, nah, let's keep it 13 on 13. Let's make sure it's a good spectacle, which I just didn't like. I think that was, and I think most can agree that was a sin bin. And I was a bit disappointed that the referee and the video ref didn't get in his ear and they didn't make that as the right decision.
Yeah, look, I kind of saw this briefly. So look, I'll be honest with you. Like I did see it. I didn't really like analyze it. So I can probably sort of go either way. I know that the only real thing that I'm sort of like can say is there's precedent. It has happened before. People have been sent off for it before. And so there is precedent for that to be the sort of the case. At the same time, I've always believed that if it is genuinely an accident with those, I understand that it can be bad, but like if they don't go into him with that much force and it is like you can clearly see they really weren't trying to do it, I don't know. I think a penalty can be sufficient. I just don't think it should be a blanket rule. Again, with that one specifically, I'm not going to go into saying whether I should have, like whether he should or shouldn't have been sent because I need to rewatch it. But if I'm being completely honest with you, yeah, I think that those specific types of like send-offs like that like running into the leg of the kicker, as long as they're not specific, like as long as they're not sprinting into the leg and really trying to do some damage, like I think it can be one penalty and then like a big time warning of like if you do that again, you know you're off for sure. So look, that's my thoughts on that. Like I said, I can't really comment on that specific incident, but I can comment on the refereeing in general, which I thought over the weekend, over the sort of the day, I suppose, was mediocre.
There's two games for it. I think the first game was officiated pretty well. The second game is a different story, which I want to talk about when we do get there. But I think the second game was really poor, and it's similar. It's a familiar name, which is starting to make a bit of a name for himself, with wanting the limelight and wanting the spotlight on him, which I think is just really poor at this level, in my opinion. But for Xavier Savage, in terms of his player, him as a player, shout out to him. I think he deserves a huge piece of credit because, in my opinion, he's become one of the really improved players in this competition, not the most improved player in this competition, because about 2 years ago now he was playing reserve grade. He got dropped from playing fullback. Ricky Stewart wasn't happy with him, didn't know if he was the player he needed, wanted him to really toughen up. Obviously, everyone will talk today about his line breaks, his tries, unbelievable. I actually want to wrap him for the amount of work he was doing, coming out of his own end, playing as if he's 120 kilos when he's still not. He's still not easily nowhere near the biggest player in the field, but he just doesn't stop trying now. He'll go out and do the work, and I love to see that from him because I think that's been one of the big things that Ricky Stewart has been drilling into him, that you need to work, you need to show that you're happy to take some bruises and then continue to play with that bruise as well, not go off and say you're hurt, which he has done sort of in the past. But I just think he deserves a huge amount of credit for the player he's turning into, because I think he's turning into one of those guys that teams will actually start to study a bit and know how dangerous he can be. And if you say that 2-3 years ago, you probably laughed out of the room because they knew as soon as you put one hit on him, he'll be gone.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Look, if I'm being honest, he was my MVP for the game in general. I thought the work he got through was incredible. Like, you know, the amount of meters, I think he ran for the most meters. And I know it's sort of, you were saying to go off stats kind of thing. Sorry, not go off stats kind of thing, but he ran for 218 meters. I know there was an intercept in there. I understand that, but at the same time, it's still like a monstrous amount of sort of work to get through. And you're right. He looked tough. I'll say this, like he looked pretty tough out there. Like he didn't look, you know, he didn't look like a, you know, your average soft sort of center winger that they sort of talk about. He looked real sort of strong. And the other probably person that kind of on the other side of things, on the other side of the field, was Sebastian Chris. I thought was kind of very similar, played a very similar role. And not to talk about Supercoach, but in the draft, I don't know if you know this, but I subbed Talakai for him the game before because he was a free agent. The day before. So I got the Sebastian Chris double try, and I was very happy with that.
Well played,
so I will say, I was keeping extra close eye on him. That's why I can sort of talk about him. But yeah, look, in general, all their center wings, there was no one that played poorly at all. But Xavier Savage stood a cut above the rest. I agree with that for sure.
I think in general, the whole team played well. I think there wasn't a player on the park for the Raiders that let him down today, which I think would be the most pleasing thing for Ricky Stewart. Moving on to the next game, there's probably a number of players we haven't actually called out for that game, but we can't go through everyone, guys. Penrith Panthers up against the Sharkies. Obviously, Penrith getting the win there. I want to start this off by just saying, can we stop doubting champions and stop doubting this team, this organization? They are literally the definition of champions like that. I've got to the stage now where I should hate this team and I should hate this club. I can't. I literally was sitting there on the lounge watching this today, and I was clapping all their tries. I was clapping them, just going, this is unbelievable. Like, we are literally watching at the moment. I feel so privileged to do this, watching how good this organization is. Now, if you actually go through and look at the quality of players they've lost over the years, they should not be anywhere near where they are. Yet, here we are. They are literally in not just the discussion for claiming number 5, but for many are still the favourites to win number 5, which that in itself is absolutely ridiculous. So just let's stop doubting him. Let's give him the respect they deserve, I feel like, and just appreciate what we're actually currently living in. And the fact in 30, 40 years' time, we'll be able to sit back in our big sofa lounge to our grandsons and be like, you don't know what you missed out on, little boy. We got to see the Penrith Panthers in their prime. We had Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, Dylan Edwards, Jerome Lua when he was there. Like, we had all these players. Fisher Harris would kill people. It was just, it's crazy, Jake. I just can't believe. And this game was the definition of this because it had the new kids on the block in a way. The Sharks had everyone starting to talk about going, they've got the team this year to do it. It was a big call, but it felt like this had a real big game sort of feel to it because the Sharkies, everyone thought this would be their statement game. They'll come out. We'll talk about them shortly. I don't think they did themselves any disjustice anyway, but they'll come out. They'll want to win this game. They'll put their best foot forward, which I feel like they did. But Penrith just kept – it was like a boxing match where they just kept taking their punches, going, all right, we're taking it. And then that bit just around halftime and stuff, and then afterwards where they go, we're going now, and let's see if you can keep up. And Cronulla just had no answers.
There are so many different directions I want to take this because there's so much you can say about the Panthers. Like this, my brain's going, which way do I sort of want to go with this? Number one, I'll touch on the last point you made of like it kind of reminded you of a boxing match. In the sense that they were sort of sitting there taking their punches. They can afford to do that. I understand they had some sort of new players in there, but in terms of majority of their team, they are so experienced at being in a position where they are losing a game or whatever, and they just go, doesn't matter. The time will come. We're not freaking out. We're not doing too much. We will do what we do, and we will score. It will happen. And that comes to sort of another one of my points, which is the organization itself, which was the first thing you mentioned. Two things. One, the football program itself that Ivan Cleary has implemented into that squad is probably the best we will ever see. And probably the best that has ever happened. And I understand that I wasn't around during the 80s, 90s. I think this team beats any player any team you put on the park of ever. Not this specific team that played round one. I'm talking about the Panthers in general, like being what they are. And that has to come from a few different things. One, you said, the amount of talent they've lost, they keep winning comps. So they obviously have like a set of principles that they sort of stick to, I feel like, when it comes to signing players, retaining their nursery and stuff like that, like making sure that they play their juniors, pick the right juniors. Their talent scouts must be basically, obviously they're crushing it. They're having a great time. They're like basically whoever I put up there is going to succeed. So it's awesome. I'm having a good time. And I think it just comes honestly down to that whole, it's just everything. There's not one aspect you can focus on. Yes, you've got your experienced players, your Nathan Cleary, your Isaiah Yeo. Like, you've got the talent, that. And basically what they've kind of done is kept this really great little nucleus of Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, and Dylan Edwards. They're your sort of three. Because realistically, they lost Jerome Luai, and we'll see how they go this year without him. They lost Api Coruscant when he was their main man. and they got Mitch Kenny. So they've lost 2 members of what you'd traditionally call a spine, but has that slowed them down? Doesn't seem like it. So I don't know. That's like I said, there's a million ways you can go with what you just said, and you're right. Never doubt these guys because honestly, there is no reason why they cannot win this comp. The one thing that I see stopping them and slowing them down, because they don't have Jerome Blue Eye this year to pick up the slack if he goes down for a big portion of the season, is if Nathan Cleary goes down for a big injury. That will hurt them, but at the same time, I don't think it would put them out of the running. It just would hurt them.
Yeah, they're just so impressive. And I think the biggest thing that really made me go straight away, why did anyone ever doubt these people? That starts of the game, they were so good. Like early on, it's like they just, that little tactic where they made the Sharkies wait out in the field, that extra couple of minutes, I thought it was brilliant. I just think that was a sign of going, we're the top dogs here and you don't tell us what to do. You don't dictate to us. We dictate what to do and you do it on our terms. So that was brilliant. I love that mind game sort of stuff and that just getting that little bit of advantage. Then just that first few sets in both attack and defense, they bashed the crap out of the Sharkies. And fair play to the Sharks because they did withstand it. They did end up putting the first try on the board, but it was just a great sort of sign to the competition to go, yeah, we're used to this. We're used to you all coming out in your best version of yourselves to versus. We're not going to go anywhere. We're here and we're gonna still cop it and we'll be throwing just as good back at you. So really loved it. A big blow to them I thought was McLean, obviously, Casey McLean. And I thought that was going to be a huge blow to them actually because we've seen in the past when they lose like a key center wing person, it can really impact the team. I thought they did a great job. I thought to withstand that, and obviously they were lucky to have someone like Dane Laurie to come on who's really good player. He came on and did a fantastic job. Don't forget, they still didn't have Brian Toe in this backline either. So they then all of a sudden quickly had 2 of their better backline players not in this team. And they still did a really, really good job. So credit to them there. Liam Martin. I want to talk about Liam Martin quickly. And every time there is a big game, has there ever been a big game where he's played and he hasn't been a top 5 player or a top 3 player? I can't remember. I think every single time there's a big game, Australia, the Blues, final series, grand final, now let's throw in the Vegas opener. He's one of the best players on the field. He just the way he throws his body, how he's still playing the game, I've got no idea, let alone playing it at the level he does consistently. I actually think he's such an underrated back row as well. I know, like, anytime I do rankings and stuff, always have him right at the top, but it's always the ones blown that always get spoken about so highly, like your Ola Kawatus, your Eli Katoas, your Nikoras, all those gets because of their line running and stuff. But Liam Martin's the complete package. He literally can do it all, and he does the other dirty stuff that a lot of them don't do. He's just remarkable.
I think the biggest thing with Liam Martin, to be honest with you, is his fear factor in another team. There is no one I can think of on this planet who goes, oh, yes, I'm so excited. I'm going up against Liam Martin this week. No one. There's not a single human being that would go like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm so excited for this weekend because I get to go up against Liam Martin. That's, mate, I'd be like, oh, I play on the other side of the field. You got me on the wrong side. Please put me on the other side of the field. The guy runs like an absolute freight train. But my biggest thing is his defense. You just would not want to run at this man. But you're right. Big games, like I know Vegas opener sort of thing. Like, it is. It's a huge game. Look, they flew to another country to basically. Yeah, it is. They flew to another country to play, and it's a season opener is always a big one, like always at the time. And yeah, I've just the weirdest thing about him is he still just seems to get better. Like. You kind of look at him and you go, oh, Clive Churchill medalist 2024, that was a massive season for him. Maybe he'll slow down a touch. Maybe his body's a bit, he's getting older. Maybe his body's, no. He just comes out and he goes, you know what, I can get Clive Churchill again. You know what, I might just go for the Dally M. Why not? I'll just pull out the performance. Just, I seriously, honestly, if the whole team throws me, I can't talk about him enough because there's no one you can talk about that is bad at all.
Yeah, I agree. The last one I want to give a shout out for, and it's probably just the pairing of these two players. Like, first of all, Edwards didn't have his best game, I don't think. And that's what makes his performance even better, I think, as a whole, because their star number one probably had an off day, and they still were able to come over the top and win this game. But Nathan Cleary and Isaiah, yeah, I know we continue to talk about these guys, and everyone knows how good they are, but just how good is it to watch them together and just how good that partnership is. They've worked together now for a number of years since this all started. They've been the two main guys of this team. They control everything. Man, they're so good at what they do. They are so professional, so clinical. Everything, it feels like they've got puppets on the field from both their own team and the opposition. It's like they're in control of everything that's happening on that field. And that's the ultimate sign. I do think, and it's a huge call, I think we are currently watching two of the greatest in their respective positions at work. I do think when they both retire, we'll think about both of these players as two of the greatest players to play in their position.
You said Cleary. I didn't catch the second one. Were we talking about Edwards or Yo?
Yo,
yeah, okay. I thought you were. Okay. Yeah. No, look, you're absolutely right. Yo will go down as probably one of the best, if not the best lock of all time. And Cleary's obvious. There's no one that's going to be contesting. He's not the best halfback in the comp right now at all. Even the most blue and gold sided Eels fans can't be saying Moses is the best half in the comp right now, and I'm one of them. So, but no, you're absolutely right. And the thing is that they just combine so well together, completely. Like when you see them both on the field together, you kind of go, there's no way to keep them off. Like, there's no way to sort of focus on them both, because Yo can either just tear you apart by himself, or you can hit Cleary, who can tear you apart either using others or by himself. And you're absolutely right. Dylan Edwards had an off day. He had an off day because, the amount of passes he was throwing that were hitting the floor and sort of going everywhere. Oh, I don't know what happened there. He was having a few shots. He was drunk. He was having a few shockers, but you know what? He still ran in that game for 224 meters. He absolutely made up for it, and he'll do that every game. He'll make up for any mistake he makes tenfold every single game he plays. We just talked about, I keep going to say Sebastian Chris. What's his name? Xavier Savage. I know, mate, I'm terrible with names today. Xavier Savage, right? We just talked about how he ran. He actually ran less. I'm pretty sure I just read that before. Less meters, but he had a full field intercept. He had a full field intercept. I understand they're different positions. I understand it's different positions, but you know what? This is an average day. We just said it. That's an average day for Dylan Edwards. I would put him. I know this is a pretty huge call. I reckon he's top 2 fullbacks in the league.
Easy.
Like, easy, if not the best. He probably is the best. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I'd be pretty confident I could say he's the best. And not necessarily through skill specifically. We saw the passes.
Consistency.
But yeah, consistently and the effort. And I understand we've talked, you and I obviously specifically talk about Gutho and I always used to say, like, there's no one that beats him when it comes to effort. I think I was wrong, to be honest, because I think that Dylan Edwards is the one person who can just beat any, and I reckon he's the most effort-based player in the whole competition. I'll put that out there.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. So let's talk about before we go to the Sharkies, I just want to, let's address it, the officiating. I said that the Raiders game, it was really good. Apart from that one blower error that I thought potentially happened, I just what's doing?
Look, I'm happy to have a bit of a spiel if you want.
Go off you go.
We've gone over there, right? We've gone over there to showcase this game to America. That's what we're going over to Vegas for. I said it earlier, and that's what we're doing. We're going over to this to showcase this game to America. And to do that, for a lot of Americans who don't know the rules, we have to explain that to them, right? We have to go, these are the rules, and this is what should be happening, and all these things. And so, especially when it comes, a lot of the time when like a new person will learn a rule or something, they're very by the book. And when rules aren't being followed in a game, or, you're seeing these calls where, like, a player has his foot over the line when he jumps out and he touches the ball, or when, a ball is stripped over the line and for some reason it isn't considered a strip for whatever reason that is. Look, these are just two random examples that could have been pulled from anywhere. I don't know. But look, these players, or sorry, not these players, these fans or these people who we want to get into it kind of would be going like, oh, I can't do an American accent, so I'm not going to. Shouldn't that have been like the right call? Or am I misreading that? Am I doing this wrong? And then Australian fans who are near them just kind of have to go, oh no, that's just the refs. Yeah, no, they kind of just do what they want. Like, they don't really follow the rules. They kind of just do what suits them. And the biggest culprit for that, I'll just say it, is Ashley Klein. I'm willing to put my name out here and say it, he is the worst referee in the competition. I seriously believe that.
He's turned into the new Jared Sutton, who used to get all the big games when he wasn't. I think Ashley Klein's getting into that way. He loves his face on the big screen, doesn't he? They also obviously very much love KFC, because there's some times where we're going upstairs where we don't need to. There's a very clear decision. And everything goes upstairs now, which we've all said in the past we don't like, but that's never going to change now with sponsorship. You speak about the two things. So obviously let's the Will Kenny for those couple of minutes. So first of all, they're going to put the ball down. I think it was Lindsay Smith, if I remember correctly, was going to put the ball down. Clear try. He had the ball well and truly in his hands. Will Kennedy clearly hits the ball out of his hands. It was clear as day. Cleary then actually dives on the ball and scores. The video ref, so I'll give this one. This isn't Ashley Klein. The video ref, the bunker. Lindsay, within one look. So credit for you for making a quick decision. That's what we always want. But how you even came up with your decision, I've got no idea, because it was clear to anyone sitting at home that it was hit out on purpose, which, fair enough, you're allowed to do. But the next person who touched the ball and grounded it was Nathan Cleary. So it's a try. Every day, there is no valid reason I can think of how that's not a try. He had control of the ball at all times, Lindsay Smith. It's a try. How he didn't make that's an absolute doozy. That is a shocker. And then literally, I think the set later, Will Kennedy did this amazing 40-20 saver, which would have been a huge momentum changer or game changer. I think Penrith would have scored. I think they scored a few minutes later after this, a bit of karma gods anyway. But everyone was raving about it. You see the long shot, the touch is there in line. You look down, Will Kennedy's foot's on the line very clearly. I think it's about half his foot as well. It wasn't like a toe. It was about half. And we're missing it. And the other thing that pisses me off is that we've got this video technology. Can't they look at that? And while the game's going, let's say if it's a play or two, can't we be in the rest of the year and say, hang on, stop the play? Because this is a big moment. This is a huge moment in the game. This is a 40-20, giving a side a full set of 6 in the inside 10, which would be huge. Can't we be in the year and go, stop play? They do it when they want to put players on report and stuff. So this is, in my opinion, a bigger thing.
Way bigger.
Stop the game, go back. The scrum to Penrith at 10-meter line. They've got the ball. Foot was on the line. I don't get it. And it'd take literally 5 seconds of watching that first replay. You'd see the foot on the line and away we go. It's just, that was shocking. It was shocking. And
There is absolutely no reason why play cannot be called back. If play can be called back, and I don't even know, sometimes last year play would be called back like 3 or 4 plays before when something would happen. They'd stop play and then they'd go for a penalty or something like that. Absolutely same thing. Look, it's not as if we're necessarily human error can happen. I understand that the touchy didn't see it or he thought his foot was in or whatever. Okay, but like you just said, we have sideline technology that literally can absolutely make sure that their foot is on that line. And what's the difference of 2 tackles? Oh, sorry, you took 2 tackles to get out. No one got injured. No one scored a try. No big thing happened. Right, stop the game. We've seen on the video replay that this thing happened, and it is obviously, like you said, a very, very important part of the game. It's huge. It could absolutely, definitively have changed that game and the result and the outcome of that game based on the field position and based on everything else like that. So the fact that they won't even consider sort of doing that, and I think the reason this is a personal thing. I think that the reason they wouldn't do it is because they don't want to make the referee, like the touch judge, sort of look bad. Like they don't want to override a touchy call. This is the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but they wouldn't want to make their refs and touchies sort of look bad. Like they can make mistakes. Everyone can make mistakes. It's a very fast-paced thing. It was quick. I understand if you missed that, but go back and fix the error. do it quickly. You have to have the people in the bunker looking at that very quickly to be able to fix it. But do that. Don't just ignore it. It happened.
You've got to own mistakes. That's the thing. And it feels like they're becoming more and more protected, which I think is a bit dangerous because then they almost can get away with everything and they don't have any accountability in terms of the public. Now, I'm not saying they should be open to a public grilling, not by any means, but
no.
I just feel like there should be something there because we all make mistakes. We're all human. We have to own it. Like, for instance, the page, if I put a post out, there's a spelling error or there's a player name wrong or something like that, you're all jump on it quickly. You all let me know. I put my hand up, accept a mistake. I move on. I've got to accept it. And it's sort of similar. But Cronulla Sharkies, I thought if that last 20 minutes didn't happen where they did come back into the game, I would have been a lot more disappointed with this Sharks showing because I thought for a lot of this game, they just were a step behind, maybe even two, which I thought was a real big worry for the Sharks is they've basically only added Fanua Blake. They've kept majority of the same team, so no real big game plan changes that they need to implement or getting to know each other. They're all coming basically now this is their third year, maybe fourth year together as mainly a playing group. So for mine, they should just be hitting the ground running, off they go. This is a big year for the Cronulla Sharks. There's a lot of people out there that think they are up there with the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers. Again, if that last 20 minutes didn't happen, I'm questioning that, and I feel like there's still a bit of a gap between them. They held their own at the last bit. They came back into the contest. They proved they can be up there potentially in that conversation. I'm only going to say potentially at the moment because I need to see this for a full game because Penrith and the Storm, they do it week in, week out, no matter what. The Sharkies still have that for mine, and we've seen it today. They've got those moments where, like, for instance, that they went for the kick for touch. They didn't find touch. Then a couple of sets later, they had a kick go out on the full. Then the Penrith scored on that. Like, they shot themselves in the foot many times. I'm looking and thinking there wasn't one time where Penrith shot themselves in the foot today. Like, you can't, if you want to be that level of team, you can't be making those little mistakes. And the Sharkies are learning. They definitely are. But I also feel like they're at a stage now in their cycle, let's say, they can't use those little excuses anymore. And we'll talk about that Mulatalo thing. So poor. You can't be just whether you think something happened in that play of the ball or not. Let's be honest. It's NRL. There's so much little crap that goes on that doesn't get pulled up. It's men. They're getting into it. There's passion. There was a very passionate game as well. I'll give both sides credit for that. Got heated very early on. It happens. You can't take it upon yourself against the Panthers to give them any legs up. You're about to come out of your own end. Instead, you give Penrith the ball, who then score off it. There was a couple of moments there where they just shot themselves in the foot and they need to be better.
Yeah. That Mulatalo specifically, that incident was absolutely poor and it was an absolute brain snap. Like, you might have seen something, whatever you did or whatever, you just caused a penalty for your team against the Panthers, which is a team you cannot do that against. There are some teams where you might have been able to get away with that. Penrith Panthers are not one of them. There is a reason they have won 4 competitions in a row. Secondly, I think that Sharks are a team, and they still are, as much as, we want them to be able to be a team that can go for 80. And a lot of teams in the competition are like this. I'm not just specifically talking about the Sharks. A lot of teams will have periods in the game where they go at 100 mile an hour and periods of the game where it's a bit of a lull, right? Where they lose themselves a little bit. That is the Sharks to a T, because when they are on and when they are firing, they could beat any team in the competition. But you can't do that for 30 minutes and then have a break for 10, especially not against, again, the Panthers. They are the team. They are the one team that will wait and they will wait and they will wait until there is a lull. And when there is that lull, they will strike and they will go at you 100%. And that's when they will tune up their energy and just come at you. And they did it. They showed that they can do that because they did it again tonight. I will say this. I thought the Sharks looked gassed early. I really did. I thought that the Sharks looked a little bit tired right at the start of the game. Stone Street, he made that great run. He got put out on the edge. He made that real great run, and I understand that one was pretty long and whatever. But after that, he looked real gassed for a good amount of time. Will Kennedy played arguably pretty well. Obviously, those 2 technically errors that we didn't count, but he looked gassed pretty early. I'll still say he played pretty well, especially, that big tap in that he did to save the 40. Oh, no, sorry. That one was an error too. Don't worry, ignore that. Sorry,
he did have a solid game, so I'll give him credit for that. I know they've been very boisterous about in the offseason. He got a lot of pressure, in our opinion, on that position, but he did have a decent
He did
game.
well. I think he did enough to hold it for sure. Like, he did enough to sort of stop the talks of, let's put Hines at the back. I suppose he's the next person we should talk about, right? Like, did Nico live up to what we think he should be doing in this game? For mine, it's a no. I don't think that he lived up. I don't think he lived up enough to what he needs to be doing to be winning games. And we've sort of talked about how Braden Trindle seems to be the one who's going to be sort of taking over the more organizational duties. But I don't see him as an organizational half. I kind of see him more as the 5'8", but it's a really tough one because I kind of feel like Nico, to me, should be that half, but he doesn't play like it. So I don't know. It's really difficult, but I still don't think he did enough in this game.
It's going to be the debate till Fitzy probably comes out and makes this official. In my opinion, Hines played as the 5'8" today. I think Trindle was definitely the halfback in 80% of this game.
Yeah.
I thought Hines actually started pretty well. He put in that nice try assist with their early try that which I thought was brilliant. I thought he had his moments. Now, where I'm trying to come around to this and why I'm trying to say Fitz needs to just say this is my halves now and this is how it's set up and Trindle's my halfback and change the numbers. Goodness me, it's only a small thing, but they just make it official. I think it takes the heat off Hines a little bit because similar to what you're saying at the moment, he's got the 7 on his jersey. He's got the big pay packet. Now, he's going to have that no matter what. But everyone's expecting him to be the main guy in this team. I don't think he is anymore. I think it's going towards Trindle's team more and more. I think they've identified that. Hines said during the week, I think on the NRL 360 show, that he worked a shitload on his running game in the offseason. I did a status about this, which really excites me because he's identified the strength of his game. It's not management. It's not trying to manage the game. It's running. It's thinking run first, going from there. I don't think he actually did that enough today. I don't think he picked his times. I think there was a few times where he actually ran when he told himself to play before, I'm running, when it wasn't on. So I want him to get a little bit better at that and play like he used to do it as a fullback where he just float and then pick his times to run. And that's when he's more dangerous. I'm not going to go too harsh on him. I'll give him a pass mark today. Actually, as I said, I think there was a couple of decent moments. I just hope that the Sharkies start to, and the coach Fitzy starts to make it quite clear that he isn't the halfback anymore, because that will take a bit of pressure off him, especially from a media point of view and I guess from a fan point of view, because we'll then sit back and go, okay, so we're going to be making sure we're keeping an eye on Trindle. We're going to make sure he's running this team, which he actually did a decent job for today. There's a couple of moments, but he's on probably 400,000 at the moment, so he's doing a decent job. I think Hines pass for me.
You are correct in the sense that if they do that jersey swap and we kind of are officially kind of told like Braden Trindle is who we consider to be the main playmaker of this group, you are right in the sense that I feel like that a lot of the pressure will be shifted off Nico, because at least the fans and the people that are watching and doing all this talking about him won't be like, he didn't do enough in organizing the attack, and we'll all be like, well, it's not his role to be doing that. But then the comments and the criticism sort of comes into what you just said of like, well, did he run as much as he should have? Did he do those sort of aspects of the game? But you're right, I would take some pressure off him for sure.
And another little thing that I noticed, and I don't know if this is just a funny moment, when he did that drop, he dropped the kickoff a few minutes before half.
Ben hunted it.
In a weird way. I actually feel like that's when he was playing quite well. I think after that moment, he actually did dip a little bit. And that's been a big thing for Nico, where it's always been a mental side of things lately. And as soon as that little bit of confidence goes, he doesn't know how to get it back. And I hope he works harder and harder at this, because those moments are going to happen in games. And he's that quality of a player where he should say to himself, I'm going to make 2 or 3 mistakes this game, but I know I'm probably going to set up 2 or 3 as well and make up for that and play some other little roles throughout my game. So hopefully he learns not to have that affect him so much, because I felt like it was a funny coincidence, but from that drop ball, it did feel like he started to go down a little bit throughout that game, which I don't think is a great thing, because the Sharks do need him. If they want to go far in this competition, Hines needs to be their best player of the year, without a doubt.
He's on the money for it. He's on the money for it. That's the biggest thing you've got, is that salary cap could be going to other players. If he's not doing that, that salary cap could be going to other players in the competition who would do a better job. If he is not doing that role that they need him to do, there are so many other players in the competition that they could be putting that money towards big amounts. And the big reason why I kind of say to you that I feel like he shouldn't play 5'8" is a player on that money should not be the 5'8" of a team, in my opinion. Knights. The way I see it is that I'm being serious though. I'm being honest. That was a bit of a joke, but I'm being honest. The way I see it is that a player that isn't the game managing half should never be outpaid. Sorry. The game managing half should be your highest paid player over your non-game managing half. And I just think that that can cause friction. Like if Braden Trindle's doing all the work and everyone's still talking about Nico, that can cause friction, that can cause tension. There's a million things that can go wrong. And I think that you're right in the sense that, yes, he should work on his running game and he should do those things, but he's on the pay packet to be their main man. And if he's not doing that, why are they paying him what they are? And I think the Sharks would have to question that.
I think that's a topic that could open a huge can of worms, and we could be for another hour talking about it.
Yeah, true.
But one thing I'll say on what you're trying to say there is, I feel like if you put the question out to social media and you ask, have the Sharkies got value for money, or have they won on this deal? I'd probably say the answer is no at the moment, because he hasn't really lived up. They haven't won. Like, it's hard because they gave him that money when he was playing fullback at the Storm and he was carving it up. And then we get that whole off season where he all of a sudden turns into that halfback, which still seems a little bit crazy. But he won the Dally M. A lot of people got fooled into that. I always say the Dally M is a flawed system. It's not effectively the best player of that competition of that year. And I don't think there's been many years where the genuine best player of the comp that year has actually won it. So I just think it's quite a flawed system. It wasn't a true reflection of who the best player of that year was. Granted, Hines did have a good year that year, but I still don't think he's that fully developed halfback that the Sharkies need. And if anything, he'd probably be better off with that value he's currently on playing fullback. That's probably the end of the argument for that we continue to say, and that's why we say it so much.
I agree.
One thing I want to give the Sharkies credit for before we do wrap things up is just on the fact they were able to turn things around. The Penrith Panthers were on it got to the stage where I was starting to got a message or two where they were saying Penrith about to do a cricket score here. And I think Tim from our chat did the same thing. I thought he almost put the mocker on Penrith, said this could be anything here. And then the Sharkies, as soon as that sort of thinking happened, turned things around. They got back in the game. They were right in the thick of it. Easily could have won it, if not gone to golden point. So I think that was a huge piece of credit for them. They've learned a lot, because I think Sharkies of old probably would have rolled over and gone, not our day, all good. We know we've got a good team. Let's go back in 2 weeks' time and just put on a show at home and get back into normality, put 50 on an easy team, and that's it. But they decided to choose the hard option, which this team hasn't done for a long time. And they decided to fight, and they wanted to have some respect put next to their name. And I'll tell you right now, Sharkies fans, you've done that, because I think they've now, they lost today. They didn't start great, but the way you finished that game, I reckon would have Penrith now saying, all right, we got that one today, but we need to keep an eye on these guys. And I think you've got the Storm now thinking, all right, Sharkies are in this one.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair call. I think specifically they could have won it right at the end. Jesse Ramian had first of all, a fantastic game. Played awesome, right? Absolutely great game. But at the end, I saw what he did. He just went, you know what? I'm going to gun it straight for the line. I'm not even going to bother thinking about looking to the right. I'm just going to hit it at the line as hard as I can and hope I can go through. But if he didn't do that, if he did what a center should sort of mostly do and ran his line like he did, but looked for the pass on his right, they score that try, and I reckon that goes into extra time, or or he misses a kick or whatever, it would have put him in the position where they had the opportunity to. But in terms of in general, the Sharks got themselves back into a position where they had the opportunity to be in that spot. So you're right. They've proven themselves as a threat to the team that most likely will end up this competition on first or second. So, you can't really say that that's a fail, to be honest, overall.
Not at all. Not at all. So yeah, definitely. Can't wait to see them versus each other again down the line this year. I think it'll be another cracker of a game. And things we'll do the same thing on a week-to-week basis now, but just it's probably easy today. Only the 2 games, the 14s. But Jake, let me know the team that impressed you the most. And we're only talking NRL today. The team that impressed you the least, and then the player that stood out the most today.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty hard pressed if we didn't say the Panthers. Probably, actually, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to say the Raiders impressed me the most. I enjoyed watching them play today. And they're not a team I typically enjoy watching, to be honest with you. Like, they're not a team that I sort of I look forward to. But I'm going to say the Raiders. Least impressed me was the Warriors. I mean, there was only 4 games, so it's a bit hard to sort of do. But the Warriors just looked very lackluster all game. And player who impressed me the most, I am going to go with. I'm going to go with Xavier Savage. No, you know what? I'm going to go with Corey Horsburgh. I actually changed my mind. I was very impressed. Corey Horsburgh impressed me a lot today. Yeah, Big Red. Big Red impressed me.
Big Red deserves it. For mine, I will say the Panthers. I can't go past the Panthers as the team that impressed me. I cannot believe
that's fair.
The quality they continue to produce. It might not always be the most exciting, but goodness, man, they just get it done. That's the thing I respect the most out of them. And their brand of footy is something you got to respect. The team that impressed me the least, the Warriors, I think that's an easy one. I just think they were very, very disappointing for a round one. They probably had the biggest fan base, I felt like, as well, for the 4 clubs. They had a lot of Warriors fans over there. I just really feel like it was a bit of a really, really poor showing. Then the player that impressed me the most today, I'm going to say Isaiah Yeo. Again, a player that just continues to just do his job. He just never comes up with the wrong decision, whether it's to run, to pass, to not get the ball. Like, he just always decides the right decision. And it's just, please become human, Isaiah Yeo, because you're an absolute freak. And I'm very thankful that I've got you in my Supercoach team and my 2 draft teams. Thank you very much. But that's it. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this one. We went a bit more in depth. It won't normally be like this because we'll normally be for about 4 hours going through 8 games each week. But the Vegas games, we thought a bit more in depth because we've got a bit more time, only the 2 games plus a couple of the others. But hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like, comment, add your thoughts in. Let us know the team that impressed you the most, the least, and the player as well. See what goes around there. And get involved with the content throughout the week. There'll be plenty on there now that Team List will be there as well. The debriefing from today's games as well will be huge. Supercoach, NRLW stuff. Also, Legends Group, go ahead, $2.99 per month. Go ahead, get in there. Still a few members shy of that magic 50 mark. For $2.99, you could win your team's polo shirt for this year. I think they're valued at the moment about $89 or something, so huge value. But apart from there, hit the subscribe button. If it's for a podcast you're listening, please hit the bell icon. Give us a bit of a rating as well. Obviously, 5 stars would be preferred, but if we're not doing something you like, then drill us. It's all good. But rate us. It does go a long way of helping grow the page, which has been huge so far this year for us. Let's continue that momentum. But that's it. Good night to you, Jake. Good night to all you lovely listeners. We really do appreciate everything you're doing for the page, the support, the messages, the comments, the likes, the shares, everything. We will see you throughout the week. Tuesday live show is back again. Set your alarms, 8 o'clock Queensland time, 9 p.m. New South Wales time. Huge show. It'll be straight after the TLT list. So we'll talk about all the big team lists, any other additional fallout from today's games, and anything else in the news. We'll probably touch on. I think we've got Jason from Advisory coming on as well to talk about the Jack DeBellin case. And obviously that news has come out. So that'll be huge. And we'll probably deep dive into a bit more of the Dylan Brown situation at the Newcastle Knights and if we think it's a good deal or not. Good night. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed Sunday football. Vegas, goodbye.